We have to unmute and start the video. So would everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, everyone please silence your phones or whatever you have to do. Welcome, Mr. O'Donnell. How are you? Very good. Carrie Ann, roll call.
Nagustakis, Brescia.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Tortel. Here. Padu.
Here.
Genie.
Here.
Finn.
Here.
One absent.
Okay. Hopefully he does join us. Okay, so 1A, Paul Wiley, Acting Director, Real Property Tax Services. Letter A is a Village Administrator for Curious Joel has sent a letter requesting a correction of tax roll RP 554 by the UTA Misvita of Curious Joel, stating that a relevy of the village water bill was mistakenly transmitted to the county for relevy on the 2020 county tax water bills, and water charges are in dispute. Requesting the roll and tax be corrected and the owner be permitted to pay the balance of the tax bill without penalties or interest and halt any foreclosure action as the matter is still in dispute. Motion and a second for discussion, please.
So moved. Second.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes.
As the chairman just said, this is a matter that is still in dispute in the village, and there is not actually anything that is an error that I can correct. According to the real property tax law, there are only a couple of instances where I could actually act, and because this is not any one of those, and the matter is still in dispute, there's nothing that we can do to correct this. So the application for correction of error is denied.
Okay, do we have to, is it that we have to wait until it's no longer in dispute where we could then take whatever ruling is made and then decide whether we need to overrule or make a correction?
I'm not actually even certain about that because it's still in dispute. As far as we're concerned, the taxes should just be paid, the bill should be paid, and then they can dispute the legitimacy of the overage or the penalties and interest after. But as far as we know, they just need to get paid now and not just keep pushing it down the road and hopefully pay it later. The penalties and interest are accruing.
Okay, Matt, any insight on this issue?
As Mr. Wiley said, the village administrator submitted this request, but did not state any grounds under Article 5 of the Real Property Tax Law that would allow this body to grant relief. I don't really, he doesn't say what the mistake is. I would think procedurally property would be to deny the application. If at some later date he can come up with some a proper application, we would consider it then, but I don't think we can just table this thing indefinitely.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Do we deny it or do we just take no action?
My thought is that it should be, there's a request there that when there's no basis given, I believe is the proper response is to deny.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
So he claims there was mistakenly transmitted. Is that true or not true?
I think what they're trying to say is that because it's still in dispute, that it should not have been transmitted. But I'm not sure that that's exactly the case.
Transmitted means paid?
No, sent, I think in this case.
Okay.
That they're saying that the bill should not have been sent because it's in dispute. But as far as I know, the bills accrue regardless of whether they are disputed.
That's correct, yeah. Disputing taxes or charges is not a defense to tax enforcement. Pay first, litigate later.
So what does he mean when he says it was transmitted to the county? So he never got the bill, or
I'm not sure.
real
exactly.
property sent the bill to the county? He never sent it to the Curious Joel or now Palm Tree?
I believe that's what they're trying to claim, is that they should not have sent a bill because it's in dispute.
They shouldn't have sent it to us to relevy.
Right.
The assessor, after the deadline, should not have sent it to us, is what he's trying to say.
But
I
they
believe
have
so.
to make themselves whole.
That's
Up to them.
Yeah, right, yeah. So have you met with them?
I have not.
Have you met with them?
I have not. There was a fair amount of back and forth between Mr. Rusher and Mr. Secretary.
Pretty thick here.
In emails.
Right.
Mr. Secretary at one point admitted that the purpose of the application was to delay the tax enforcement proceedings. There are unpaid bills going back to 2020 for these two parcels. Therefore, it's in an active tax enforcement proceeding. And he's looking improperly, frankly, to use this Article 5 of the real property tax law to stop us from going forward with that proceeding, but that's not the purpose of our, that wouldn't even accomplish this anyway, because there's, 2-year-old leads that we would be proposing on. We eventually got the papers.
Mr. Hines?
So I assume we're out the money, we made the town or the village whole?
That's my understanding.
So we're the ones out the money, so I don't know why they're looking for relief from us.
Because eventually the county's going to take the property.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And they're trying
I
to.
agree with
Oh,
Mr. Nutley, they pay the taxes and we don't take it, and they can figure it out, who owes what between themselves.
Right, they have to settle the dispute. We can't do, take any inaction and have our, future procedures, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you understand what I'm trying to say. All right. Any other questions, Mr. Brescher?
Looking for motions tonight? If you are, I'll make it.
Okay. Mr. Brescher, second. Tell. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Okay, B, taxpayer for Wallkill, 14-2-33, claimed he went to the Pine Bush School District on 9/29/22 to pay his tax bill and get a receipt, but was told to put in Dropbox as there were no in-person payments. The school district claimed to not have his check, therefore his school district tax bill was re-levied on the county in town 2022 tax bill. Taxpayer paid this bill, but is requesting his fines and penalties be removed. Proof provided, it says. Motion in a second, please.
Second.
Okay,
As you're saying, in this case, the proof that is provided is that, yes, a bank did make a check for him. The check was never cashed by the school district. And I'm not sure exactly who's at fault here. Either he did not submit the check, or the school got the check and never recorded it. The check has not been cashed. And this is another one of those instances where an error has not been committed that we here at Real Property can do anything about. And although I feel for the taxpayer, and he did pay his bill with the penalties and interest at the time, I do not feel that there's anything that we can do, that I can do, about making this whole.
If I could jump in, this is very similar to the situation last month.
correct.
Mr. Wiley is correct that Article 5 doesn't really apply here, but this body does, well, the legislature does have the power under Section 11A2 of the Real Property Tax Law to cancel penalties and interest, at least insofar as it's county money, not counter money. And so that is, that is within the legislature's power should it choose to exercise it, but it's not a correction of error matter. So I would recommend denial of the correction of error application. The legislature sees fit to use its power under Section 1182. It's your call.
Okay, questions from committee members? Mr. Hines?
Yeah, just, there's an error in the actual resolution. It says 9/29/22, which didn't happen yet.
Yeah, it'd be 21.
It should be 21, and it was, I guess, the school taxes, but we have no idea when this check was put in the Dropbox or anything.
We do not.
There's no proof of that. There's proof that a check was drawn, but we have no idea whether the guy put it in a month late or a week late or ever put it in at all.
And the school district could have found it and said, oops, we made a mistake, and decided to cover it up and say, whoops, never got it. I mean, anything could happen where it gets left in the box on the bottom of the drawer on the day they're supposed to collect it. And, honest mistakes.
We denied last month, so I think we have to do the same here, treat everybody the same.
Betsy,
Also, this is, for the benefit of the committee, it is slightly different than the issue that came up last month. Last month, the school
it was fraud.
district did provide corroborating evidence, and they submitted an affidavit as well, saying that the check was submitted to them, it was taken out of the Dropbox, and the check was fraudulently cashed. In this instance, if you look on the legislative request, it actually says that the school district, that nobody from the school district could account for this gentleman coming in. They don't recall seeing him. I don't know where that information came from, but it is in the legislative request. That being said, it is different. And so in your decision-making, you should recognize that they are two different instances.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Mr. Cheney,
And again, if we made the school district whole on this, or did it not get to us?
It didn't get to that point because he did pay
He
the
paid
penalties and interest. Yes, he's actually just trying to get that part back.
And why didn't he go to the school district to request that?
He did go to the school district.
And they said no.
They said to call real property. So,
yeah,
So they said no.
yeah, they just passed it to us, that's all. All right. Any other questions from committee members?
Do we need a motion to deny?
Yeah, we need a, yes, a motion to
So
deny.
moved to
Mr.
deny.
Cheney to deny, is there a second?
Second.
Tortel, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. Okay, C is an addition. This is a request to remove a certain property from the upcoming property auction for open space purposes if it is not redeemed by the owner by the redemption date of May 4th, 2022.
So moved.
Second, Tortel, thank you. Paul?
Okay, this is 84 acres of land that's over in the town of Minnesink along the New York, New Jersey border and has come now headed for auction for failure to pay taxes for the last 2 years. The property, it's a past farm. It has a few small structures on it. I actually just visited this past weekend just to take a look at it, and it is a beautiful piece of land. It has very strange limited frontage from a side road in New Jersey. That being said, it is adjacent to the Appalachian Park and a tract of land that's owned by the United States of America. And I agree with the county executive, this would be a good addition for open space.
Is that part of the Wallkill Park, the New Jersey border?
It's near there. Since the Appalachian Trail goes through there, I'm not sure exactly the border of the park right there. But it is, within sight of High Point and the High Point Park. Appalachian Trail runs on the Jersey border side of this. If you see the map, it's a little bit strange the way the configuration works. The property is actually accessed, as I said, from an unpaved, appears to be a private road that's off of Mount Salem Road over the border into New Jersey.
Okay, I don't see any colored highlights. Which property is it? What's the numbers?
Sorry, you don't have the same clarity that I have.
12/1/26.
Oh, okay, this one. Okay, that's what it looks like. All right. Questions, committee members? Ms. Tortel?
If you look at the property description report for 45 Goldsmith Road, it says the sale date was July 8th, 2021 for $1. Who was it? It doesn't say who it was sold to, it just shows prior owner.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't see that in my information.
It's down at the bottom of page 2.
I think that's when we took it.
That's when we took.
Yeah, that, I was gonna say the transfer date, does it show as being in August of 2021?
July.
It shows
July.
July 8th,
July.
2021.
That would be the taking probably right.
Okay, I was just trying to make sure I understood that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Tortel?
So we're looking to transfer this to Open Space Institute or the Land Trust rather?
It could be one of several different organizations. Open Space Institute is a possibility. Orange County Land Trust would be another. There was a group, if you recall, from a month ago, the Trust for Public Land was trying to put a bid in to take the property off the auction list, but they couldn't get their get processed through in time to get a bid in. And county executive got involved saying that we should not let this one go to auction, that we should step in and make sure it goes to open space.
So by us taking it out, then at another point in time, it'll come back for a sale or transfer to
An open space
a
organization.
open space type organization.
That's my understanding.
Okay, does that have to be denoted on this legislative request or resolution that the property will be removed and specifically sold to an open space or land trust?
I don't think we need to specify that. Are we going to ask for bids?
If we're taking it off.
Right, take it off, and then it
Because
does.
they're gonna want to, do we want them to try and buy it from us, or are we gonna just donate it?
That
to
would
them?
be my understanding, is that whatever organization would have, at least have to pay back taxes and penalties and interest. I'm not exactly positive of that process.
Okay, no, we rely on the county exec's office to make sure that the proper organization. Ms. Benelli,
If you go here, the next one for deed sales, it's included in there.
oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Which brings up another one, another parcel that the county executive asked us to look into, but just in the last couple of days, because the Orange County Land Trust was interested in it. There's a 6-acre tract of land that's in the town of Warwick, adjacent to the Mount Eve Reserve. And that parcel,
Okay, is it in the deed sales?
it's not actually, it's in the, it's one that we did not get in time for this had just happened the last day or so.
Oh, okay, so you're gonna bring that forward next month?
Well, I was hoping to get an opinion on this now if possible, but
But you need to present something to us to get an opinion.
okay, so it can be tabled till next month?
Sure. Okay. Okay, so I pulled a lot of paper clips off, so I'm a little confused with the organization, so, okay. So page 1, can I get a motion for discussion on detailed parcels? Mr. Padu,
Second.
Ms. Hortel? Okay, you're up.
Okay, so these, if I have the same page, these are 3 that parcels that the municipalities are looking at taking off of the auction list. And 2 of the 3 were presented last month and were tabled, and 1 more was added since then when Chester decided to step forward and also would like to acquire one of the parcels left here. So the first one is in Chester, section 104, block 6, lot 3 is a mixed-use building, 49 Main Street. And the Village of Chester would like to bid on that. And they have submitted a minimum bid of $68,939. We recommend that this action be taken.
Okay. Any questions on this, committee members? All right. Number 2.
Number 2 is a property, 2-family house in the town of New Windsor. The Village of Curious Joel would like that to make their water line transition a little bit smoother through that intersection. They have bid $20,000 above the minimum bid of $13,926. And we recommend that, yes, this actually be taken also.
Okay, so that is again near Riley Road in 94.
Why was that table last month? I remember.
This and another property in Tuxedo were both tabled last month because I believe there was a hesitancy because of a impending bankruptcy or legal action on one property. And we decided if we were going to hold off on one, we should hold off on both.
All right. Questions from committee members? Mr. Chain.
In all 3 cases, this is also a situation where if the current owner of the property comes in and pays the taxes before the date of the auction, that the property owner would end up with the property. And these 3 individuals or these 3 municipalities wouldn't get what they're requesting, but if they don't, then it automatically goes to them.
Correct. And I should point out that in the previous two lots that we were talking about, the town of Minnesota and the town of Warwick, it is the same situation. Those are not on the leftover deed sale list. They were on the auction list, meaning this is their first time coming to auction. And if the property owner redeems them by paying their back taxes by May 4th, they get to keep their property.
Which is why the bids are higher than taxes that paid by the owner.
Yes, in this case, yes. So that brings us to the third property, which is 27 acres.
Okay.
Of vacant industrial land off of Route 17A in Tuxedo. And the town of Tuxedo would like to acquire that if possible.
Okay, and again, that amount is for $106,500.
Right, above the minimum bid of 106,250. So we recommend yes, if this action be taken.
Okay, so I have a question on the one from New Windsor. So if the homeowner pays his back taxes, then the village of Hickory would not get the property, but they could then buy the property from him if they really wanted it and really needed it, or go through eminent domain or something like that to, you know, as a taking, but then the homeowner would be paid fair market value.
Of course, yes.
So you would think the homeowner would maybe be listening and go arrange a loan and keep his house. But we don't have any say in that. Questions on 2 or 3?
The one in Tuxedo, just for a point of reference, I'm looking at the map. What body of water is that there? It doesn't get noted on the map here. I'm trying to figure out where this is on 17A. Some of the names and stuff are jumbled on my.
Yeah, it's after you come through the Renaissance Fair area, the old Tuxedo, coming from Greenwood Lake.
Okay.
And just at about the point where it goes to double lanes both ways, it's off to the right there. There's an intersection, a firehouse on one side.
Yep.
And the lake on the other. So it's
Yeah.
a
All
reservoir.
the words are jumbled on the
Right.
screen on the map, so I couldn't figure out where it was.
And the body of water doesn't have a name on a lot of mine outside.
All right,
Thank you.
no problem. Any other, Betsy?
Just for clarification for the legal record, these actually were not tabled from last month. No action was taken last month. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so noted. Thank you for the correction. All right, any other questions from committee members? All right, all in favor of the recommendation for 1, 2, and 3?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, one last one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not in my pile of papers, but I may know when I was under.
The Minnesink one?
Oh, this is just the Minnesink one that was, again, was last month, the Trust for Public Land was trying to put a bid in on this one. And that's one that the county executive has stepped in and said we'd rather skip it.
So we're gonna skip that one.
Right, that's the one we already removed, right?
Yes,
That's
this was
the
the
one we
one that
just
we just took
approved
the
to
vote on to use for open space.
Right.
So that it's been removed. Well,
That was C.
Right.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. You don't,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Next up, Karen Havlo.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, A is request to approve the acceptance of credit card payments for the departments listed on Schedule A. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Duke, Hines, Karen?
Thank you very much. As requested, this is an old resolution back from 2008. We just need to amend it. This was discovered as part of the process that Deputy Commissioner Gallagher has been working on for about 2.5 years to try to expand our ability to accept credit card payments throughout the county. And one of those steps we discovered was that we needed to amend the schedule of departments attached to this original resolution, which will be allowed to take credit cards going forward. So it's really just an amendment of the Schedule A.
Okay, what can you just point out the few Adjustments or amendments?
Yes, I can read them for you for the record. So the departments that were originally on there that currently take credit cards are mental health, county clerk on the DMV side, parks, airport, EF&S, probation, sheriff, jail, and Valley View. The ones that are added are Board of Elections, county clerk on the record side, emergency management, employment and training, finance, general services, health, human rights, human resources, planning, public works, real property, risk management, social services, and youth bureau.
Okay.
Close to every department.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong page.
Ms. Patel?
Sorry. Schedule A, I don't see Board of Elections listed on my copy of Schedule A. That could be,
It's on this sheet.
yeah.
There are a few attachments. Unfortunately, there's not a page number to guide to. Sorry about that.
It's-
This is the third page, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. We did pass that one after that.
Welcome, Mr. Nagustakis. Let the record show that you're here.
I apologize for running a little late today.
Things happen. All right, any questions for the commissioner on A? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Sales tax update.
Sales tax update. So in front of you, you should have updated reports through April of 2022.
Mhm.
Year to date, I usually start with the page with the blue highlighted lines, which is the county portion only.
Mhm.
So as you can see there, year to date, we are 10.8 million over budget, which
Nice.
represents about 29.5% in excess of our budget for the year. And then on the far right, you can see it's about 9% above, almost 9% above where we were last year.
Mhm. Again, so by function, we will be increasing our payments to the local municipalities as well,
Yeah, so
due to this,
as of today, actually, we're processing this next quarterly payment to municipalities. I didn't have the schedule prepared because it's literally being done
of
today.
course.
In aggregate, that amount is $22.8 million
Excellent.
being sent out. to
So they're gonna love that.
They will get their overage at the end of the year and
Mhm.
after that fourth quarter payment. So these are the normally budgeted ones that go out, and then the excess surplus funds, if they are any by the end of the year, which it looks like there may be, but you never know what the second half of the year brings.
Correct.
So then they would go out.
Mike A.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karen, what's the period of the last payment that we received? The dates that would encompass?
That it represents the retail sales fund?
Yeah.
Starts with
My,
December.
my question is gonna be, is it a very recent time period, and are you seeing any hint at all of any kind of retail slowdown? Obviously with the Fed starting to increase rates, they haven't really done it yet, but they're gonna start every month going forward at a substantial pace is what is expected. And there are some already talk of slowing in the mortgage origination market, other places. Are you seeing anything at all?
So
now?
I can't give you an exact answer as to what retail periods it represents. I unfortunately did not bring that schedule with me, but this typically it represents retailers who file via EFT from the prior month. So that information is obviously very up to date. But then for the ones that file quarterly, there is like a 3-month delay. And then the ones that actually mail in a check, you know, there's a significant delay. So these could, most of the monies in April were probably due to March, and then some for the quarterly, January, February, March period.
Okay.
But it is very recent data for the most part. But, you know, I did pick up on the fact that if you look closely, the April 13th payment was only 13% above budget. I don't know if that's, you know, going to start a trend or if it was just a blip. I'm not quite sure. I'm certainly aware of what's, you know, all the articles are coming my way. Actually, I spoke to Justin Rodriguez earlier today and said, everything coming in my email box is bad news today. Everything is, you know, certain banks are predicting recessions and lots of downturns expected, but I really don't see it in the numbers yet.
You know, that's
but
my
I also-
question, if you're seeing anything at all in the numbers.
Not yet.
Because sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I know there are surveys that were done of people, and they're at the highest level in history of expecting a recession to start. And so if people are expecting one, maybe they start pulling back on their spending.
I mean,
Yep.
they're saying that there is a decrease in consumer confidence, but
Yep.
yet the actual spending is not showing it yet.
Showing it.
So it could just be a delay, but I am on board with that philosophy that I do think there will be a slowdown. I don't know if you'll see a recession, but you will see a slowdown in growth and possibly a downturn.
The flip side is the investment amount that we have. We're starting to see pick up in rates, like the 1 year is at 1% right now.
Yeah.
Or over 1%, 1.4, I think. So is that affecting your investment philosophy? And how are you going to approach that? Because again, over the next 1 and 2 and 3 months, we should be getting 0.5% increases minimum. So do we hold back investments now?
Well, we never hold back, but we will change the duration based on
Yeah.
expectations of increases in future rates.
So
But
you keep the duration minimum low. at this
yeah,
point,
we're going out
expecting
short term and we have a few maturities coming up in the next 30 days or so that we're already looking at and evaluating. We're looking at possibility of treasuries. So we're looking at different things that weren't really as competitively priced recently.
Sure, you
And now they're
probably have-
becoming more
You
competitive.
probably haven't picked up any treasuries in the last 4 or 5 years, I would
Um,
expect.
Yeah, actually, we haven't. That's true.
Right, but now you're going to consider.
Well, they've always been considered, and they've not fared well in comparison to rates we could get on CDs or
Sure.
other.
But the 2 years is
opportunities.
about 2.5 right now. It'll probably go up to 3 or 3.5 in the
Yeah, I
next
mean,
6 months.
Yeah, I mean, typically what we do is we have a maturity of 30 million coming due soon. And
Okay.
what we'll do is we'll look at the entire market and with our partner 3+1, they have a nice website with a dashboard that shows us comparables.
And you'll stagger those
treasuries and everything.
maturities.
We do,
Okay.
yeah, and it's also working in, like I said, trying to figure out where the market's gonna go, with all the research that we do, whether we're looking 6 months out, 1 year out, trying to factor in those variables and make informed decisions as to how long to lock up our money.
One last thing, and I'll let it go, but their outlook over the next 6 months and 1 year is increased interest rates, correct?
Absolutely.
He follows things daily like you do.
Yeah. That's the outlook. But as you know, a 50 basis point increase in interest rates, we're not gonna get 50 basis
No.
points. We'll get maybe,
No.
the banks will keep a nice share of that and we'll get maybe 30 if we're
Sure,
lucky.
yeah, but
Yeah,
There's
we
even-
fight for every basis point we can get, but they never give you, pass through the whole
right,
increase.
you'll get about 60%.
Yeah.
But there might even be 3/4% after the first couple of 50s. So
We'll see.
we'll
Yeah,
see what
we'll
happens. It's gonna be interesting.
I just
right?
read today, I thought, I don't know who it was, but somebody predicted 3.75% by next year. That's aggressive, so we'll see.
I think it'll be a lot higher. I mean, quarter by at some point mid next year.
All right,
Thank you.
good for savings accounts.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Karen?
So going on to the next page, it just shows, I like this chart because it gives a longer term comparison by pay period, which helps factor in the seasonality a little bit more. Shows also that our next payment will be coming in May 4th. And again, we're watching it very closely. Just especially, anxiously waiting to see if the amount over what we budgeted starts to come down a little bit.
Mhm.
Hopefully not, but it wouldn't be very surprising if it did. And then the next page was the graph.
Trend lines.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really have any questions on that. It's just a nice visual. And then the last thing that I provided was the occupancy tax. And this comes in quarterly, so there's really not a lot of change. Occasionally we get off-cycle payments from certain catch-up payments, if you will. But again, this won't change significantly until June now. But you can see we're about 200,000 above where we were last year at the time. So I expect to have a strong year in terms of occupancy tax.
Mr. Cheney.
How much of, maybe not this first quarter this year, but last year's came from the, I guess, online markets?
From short-term rentals?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say, to be honest. I'm not supposed to disclose any individual vendor information. And that is mainly attributable to one vendor. I can see if I can provide some sort of a better dive into
Okay,
that
yeah.
for the next month.
Just curious as to what kind of recovery we're getting.
Yeah, I can tell you that the growth in that type of revenue has been astounding and definitely higher than any large hotel growth that we're seeing.
Because I'm thinking back 2-3 years and weren't we at about $3 million in $2 to $3 million in revenue from
Yeah.
the occupancy
Yeah.
tax?
Yeah, right on the right side, you can see
Oh,
the
right.
annual revenue, how it's grown. I mean, really, it's only 2020 with COVID where you had a year that did not see growth.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the short-term rentals, the growth is really month over month growth.
And so when did we
Quite
kick in
impressive.
with the short-term rentals?
I'm trying to think.
About
when we did that.
2017, 2018?
No, not even that long ago. I
No.
think it was in either 18
19,
or
I think.
19.
I think it was 19.
Yeah, and I've actually spoken with Sullivan County and we've got some ideas on how to proceed to try to get an arrangement with VRBO, which they've secured. So that will help us too. So I've worked with the law department and we're gonna try to get a contract going with them. So that'll help too.
Excellent. All right, questions from committee members? Other legislators? Ms. Hotel?
When you're looking into VR, also look into bnb.com. Because we have a lot of B&Bs in this county, and I've noticed that a lot, especially in my district, are using that platform.
Okay.
So I don't know if how they're reporting their room occupancy rate when it's coming in through that versus somebody calling the B&B directly.
Right. So for B&B, if they should be listed as an individual operator. So the only difficulty that we would have with them is if they were renting a room. A lot of them are listed on multiple sites, including an Airbnb or VRBO. So the only trouble we would have is if they rent their room through an Airbnb, we're not able to distinguish what individual vendors are included in the Airbnb submission. It's an aggregate number, and that was dictated by the contract that we can never really see the individual operators included in the receipt.
And so
So-
if we were expanding it to include VRBO.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what we can do with them. If they offer that, where they remit on behalf of all of their participants, then we can certainly try to pursue an agreement with them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
You're welcome. So we have a different agreement with them, unlike the state sales tax where you're the person who could actually individually look through the 90,000 spreadsheets.
Yeah, only with Airbnb. Their contract dictates that it's provided as an aggregate.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Who does the audit of all these Airbnbs, hotels?
So we have internal auditors that have recently completed audits, random audits on hotels. We're not able to audit the Airbnb information except once in a certain time frame, and it honestly we feel like we haven't gotten enough data yet to warrant an audit. So, but that could potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is college. Welcome. This is a request to use $200,000 in capital chargeback money for the purchase of capital equipment in accordance with the education law. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Jane Patel. Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Nice to be here again and see everyone. And this is a straightforward request that doesn't require any new money, which I know is always helpful in your deliberations. Almost 2 years ago, in the first budget process I was involved in with the college, I believe it was members of this committee made me aware of the accumulation of capital chargeback funds that were available to assist in equipment purchases for the college and encourage us to make use of these funds. And with the COVID issues being dealt with, it's taken a little while, but we have studied this issue and are very pleased to come for the first time requesting to use the $200,000 from the county that would be matched by another $200,000 from the state in order to buy equipment for classroom use. I think what we've found in past budget difficulties is that the equipment line is one of the first lines that gets cut. And so there are some There are some real horror stories here. The first two line items there about microscopes. The existing microscopes, I think, were purchased in 1980 or somewhere around that time. So we're well overdue for doing this. So in understanding the flows in and out of this chargeback account, we think this would be an ideal use for these monies going forward, is to support equipment for the classroom. So this first go around, we're focusing on the sciences and lighting upgrade in our theater. But each year we would come back with an additional request, and we will spread the money around the various academic divisions so that all areas are getting the equipment that they need over time. So we are very happy to put in this request, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the members might have.
Okay, questions from committee members? Mr. O'Donnell.
What are you doing with the old microscopes or whatever else is being replaced that could be used for like children's programs or something like that?
To be honest, I don't know exactly. It's the first time I've run across this issue since I've come to New York, but I know in my past experience, we would normally offer those to other nonprofit institutions and schools if they're still of use, or we would auction them per the state regulations. I can find out more about what we've done on that if you would like, Mr.
Sure.
O'Donnell, but I would assume that's what would happen.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hines.
I don't know if you're looking for exact numbers, but one of the math charts, you say laptop one, $4,000 for a total of $5,239.
You know, I noticed that myself when I was looking at this, and I believe that it might have been a year's worth of software support that's included to get up to that level.
If you could just check on that
I
and
certainly will.
let us know. It sounds sensible. Thank you, Mr. Hines. Any other questions? Committee members, other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also let the record show that other legislators, Chairwoman Benelli is here, as well as Legislator Menuda. Hey, Alan. Next up, Alan Sorenson, Commissioner, Planning Department. The Orange County Water Authority is requesting a supplemental appropriation from the County of Orange to partially fund project-related expenses in 2022 for the City of Newburgh Water Supply Land Acquisition and Restoration Program, also known internally as the Newburgh Water Quality Improvement Project. This pre-existing project is funded in part by a grant through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Approximately 80% of the $1,723,870 of the total project cost of $2,154,837 will be reimbursed by the grantor. But the authority needs funding available in its 2022 budget to pay for these project costs upfront prior to being reimbursed.
Second.
Mr. O'Donnell. Cheney. Alan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. In 2018, Department of Planning received, or Orange County Water Authority received a water quality improvement program grant through New York State DEC. That grant was to fund a project with a total project funding cost of $2,154,000. The amount that is reimbursable is $1,723,870, requiring a grant match of $430,967.50, which will be both cash and in kind. The purpose behind this grant is to acquire lands around Browns Pond watershed, which is the water supply for New Windsor and Town of Newburgh, City of Newburgh. If you recall, Washington Lake was adversely affected by PFOAs coming from the Stewart Airport. And so that is no longer a viable primary water source. So it's inherently important to protect the water quality of Browns Pond. What the Water Authority has recently, we now have a full board in place for about the past 9 months. And I am working with Enica Cruz in our office to get this grant, which was again funded back in 2018, up and running. In order to do so, we do need an advance from the Orange County Legislature so that we can have the required funding in place to pursue phase one, which is a land acquisition for a property that we're referring to as parcel number one. Anticipated acquisition costs are $750,000. That is a very large parcel, approximately 84 acres right along Browns Pond, so it's a critical piece in terms of protecting that watershed. So the request today is for $600,000 so that we can initiate phase one. We will concurrently seek an advance from New York State DEC of $400,000, which will then give us a budget of $1 million to work from. Out of that million, there's planning and administration costs of approximately $10,000, transactional cost of another $50,000. As I mentioned, the land acquisition cost of $750,000, and project continuation. Once we're able to acquire this property, we'll seek reimbursement from New York State DEC, roll that money back in to the project, the Water Quality Improvement Program project, and pursue the acquisition of other properties around Browns Pond that have been identified in the grant application. For this initial property, the property owner has been approached by OSI. So it's an interested seller. There's an appraisal process that will go through, and but without the funding from the county, we just can't get this project off the ground. So that's why we're here today seeking that funding.
Yes, and they're actually having negotiations, or they seem to have 4 willing landowners and property surrounding the lake. Can you forward the appraisals to us when they come in?
I have to speak to the, I'm just the executive director of the Orange County Water Authority.
So
I'm certain
you
that
can ask.
I can ask.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. And for those people that weren't at physical services yesterday, the parcel that we're talking about for number 1 is kind of like in the center of the map, kind of like looks like pointing to the left. Correct?
Yes.
Kind of like a hand pointing to the left, just below, the gray spot next to, where it says Browns Pond. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, it's right where that title is.
Yes. Questions from committee members? Ms. Tortel?
Mr. Chairman, could you just please add me to this resolution?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
You mentioned the
Mr.
budget
Bishop?
$750,000,
Correct.
but we learned that yesterday. I don't remember him telling us the price yesterday. We went to executive session, didn't we? They talked about it?
I don't remember.
We talked about approximately, so that the final price still has to be worked out.
Mhm.
So that's a big chunk of the monies that we're hoping to get, just for that piece.
Correct, yes.
All right, and then the other question would be,
It's probably the biggest piece possible that they show here.
it's close. And also then it says, Orange County Water Authority reached out to 13 landowners. And to date, 4 landowners have expressed interest in selling or donating for conservation. Does anybody offer to donate any of those parcels? No.
We have not.
No, because they don't get money. It's us.
Various sizes will have various values.
But it was mentioned yesterday too, that your estimate is $9,000 an acre.
That's an
For that
estimate.
particular.
An estimate, approximate.
That was just on the
That was on the
largest
warrant.
one,
That's right.
Correct.
which also has wetlands.
Yeah. a little bit.
All right. Any other questions? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Karen, thank you.
Okay, next up, Jim Brooks. Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. A is a request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget for Stony Ford golf equipment to cover the increase in the cost of the equipment. Upon approval, these funds will be added to capital project 746-22. The amount is to be $10,000 and be bonded. Can I get a motion second, please?
So moved.
Sorry. O'Donnell and Gresham. Jim?
Okay, so this is for the Stony Ford Golf Course. We had in the capital plan last year to purchase equipment. We purchased the majority of it, but due to the increase in the cost of all of the equipment, the last item on the list, which is, I believe it's a John Deere Gator, we need the additional funds to purchase.
Just a stopgap measure. Any questions from committee members? All right, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. B is a request for supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for Hickory Hill golf equipment to cover the increase in the cost of that equipment. Upon approval, these funds will be added to capital project 745-22.
So moved.
Again, $6,000 for bonding. O'Donnell? I'll second.
And this is the same thing. It's for our Hickory Hill Golf Course. $6,000 for the sod cutter that we were unable to purchase because of the increase in costs.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Mr. Nagusakis.
Thank you. Jim, you know the company offhand that you're buying that from?
It's from a Montauk Tool.
Thank you.
Need some sod at your house? Oh. Ms. Totel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're saying that was for the sock cutter, but I'm seeing several.
That's what it says. The bottom line. Says Montauk Tool, sod cutter.
Yeah, but we're talking about the store tractor, because that's, you're talking about the first.
It's the last item on the,
Go to the bottom. Are you on this page? Okay.
Montauk tool, side cover.
All right. Any other questions? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. C, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for remediation and repair of the Hickory Hill Maintenance Garage in Warwick. This project has not been approved under the 2022 capital plan. Upon approval, if approved, a new capital plan will be created in the amount of $206,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second. O'Donnell. Second. Somebody.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We were here last month. You received this package for your review for last month. This is to remediate and repair the golf maintenance shop at Hickory Hill from Hurricane Ida, damaged by mold. We're at the same time, last month we had talked about being reimbursed from FEMA for 75% of the cost. The funds from FEMA will be months, if maybe even a couple of years before we get them. So it's our opinion this work has to be done now. It's a health and safety issue for our employees at that site.
Okay. there were some questions that were brought up last night, and actually some pictures that we were able to see of the condition of this building. Is there some sort of advantage of going through FEMA rather than just tearing it down? To be honest,
Well,
I know Mr. Menuda's here because he had the same questions.
it would have, the mold has to be remediated anyway, just can't like knock it down and throw the,
Sure you can.
raise the building. Then that becomes friable.
No,
That's
friable is asbestos. Mold is just mold.
We did get some numbers on it and they were substantially more to,
The 206,000?
for a brand new building, yeah.
Oh, well, that's what I'm talking about. Correct the drainage situation, correct the entire site. Mr. Menuda can speak better than I can on some of these ideas.
Thank you, Chairman. So I first would like to address the reports. So I have reports here that are from HNST mold inspections, environmental testing, and I also have another one from Hayes Microbial Consulting. If I turn your attention to, bear with me. Page number 3 of 27 in the HNST document. The bottom in bold, HNST mold inspections does not diagnose any client nor provide health-based recommendations on whether the environment is safe or unsafe for occupancy.
Which page are you on, Joe? Sorry.
Sure, page 3
Right.
of 27. Page 2, page 3, yes, microbial sampling, right at the bottom.
Okay.
So I looked for in both of these reports, whether there was a clinical industrial hygienist who would make such recommendations, and I didn't find any in either of these companies or the people that signed off on.
Okay.
So there isn't anyone there who can tell us whether this work even needs to be done or not. They just simply said there's mold. Mold is naturally occurring, and where it becomes difficult is when the indoor environment exceeds that of the outdoor environment, and again, it's naturally occurring. There's no recommendations, only high levels in the plywood room. And the plywood room says to be removed. And another portion of this report says that let's see here. We got a few things going on. Page 6 of 27. Likely, the stains and active moisture in the sheetrock above the ceiling and garage door in front of the repair shop is likely due to past or current rodent nestings. Salts and urine will indicate false positives with moisture meters. We come down to 1, 2, 3 bullets below that. Ghosting and thermal tracking is an accumulation of soot and household dust, and is common in the use of candles in general cooking. So my curiosity is, do we use candles or general cooking inside this maintenance shed?
No.
And it's not a household. So I'm curious that, of the accuracy of the report based on that. I'm not trying to drill down on that, but there's other items here as well. To remediate molds and impacted sheetrock, homosote wood paneling and tin sheathing in the carpenter shop must be removed. Then all surfaces in the buildings cleaned and sanitized with a HEPA filter, vacuuming, wipe damping, antimicrobial disinfectant solution with the use of HEPA filtered air scrubbers for several days. Mold resistant coating should be applied to the substrates behind the removed materials and should not be applied to the roof deck. Going down to the bottom, the last bullet, second sentence, the molds in the roof decking and the attic space add significant amount of additional work to the mold remediation. And as the molds are in a warehouse type environment and not immediately in the work areas, as with other areas of mold identified, the remediation of these molds may be omitted. The removal of the entire plywood structure in the chainsaw room may prove more manageable and logistically beneficial approach as to cleaning of the wood structures. So then I go to, after having read that, I go to the estimate, which if we go to the excuse me, which one is it? It's advanced DRI. And I'm looking at, just make sure I have the right one. Okay, so for the fuller page, which is dated 10/8. They're both dated 10/8, and then we have mold remediation work plan is the title. So I noticed that the pricing excludes testing, repairs, moving of contents, and unforeseen conditions. Testing obviously is by another company, repairs is obviously by the next, but moving of contents, obviously there's contents that needs to be moved. And I'm not sure why that wouldn't be included in the cost of this. Unforeseen conditions obviously are what they are. Then I go to the change shop room, chainsaw room. And it's saying to tear out wet drywall, clean up per bag. But this is just tearing stuff out, where the other report says it's a plywood structure, it should be completely removed.
So there's two prices. One was 95,000 change, the other was 110,000. The first cost is to remediate, remove all of the mold.
I understand that. Let me get to my point.
And then the other part is to replace whatever structures were removed.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is that the report tells us that you don't really have to do anything. So the importance of this mold and how much of there is, there's nobody telling us that there's anything wrong with it. There's a couple of high-level areas, and it's simply saying to remove the chainsaw structure, which is just a plywood structure inside the shop. So I guess my question is, why are we going to the expense of doing all of this to a building that, when I saw the pictures yesterday after the meeting, I wonder whether it's even worth putting money into. I noticed that we've got what looks like a very dilapidated building.
That's true.
And for whatever reason, there's brand new windows in it. I don't know when those are put in.
This structure has been used for years and years, long before I got there. The windows that were there were broken or not there. We put windows in 2 years ago.
When did
after Ida, if you saw what was there, I mean, there was mold everywhere, over equipment, over shoes, over clothing, and the employees were not going to go in there, period. So I'm open to any suggestions. If you'd like to explore to knock that building down and build a new one,
Absolutely.
we can go that route. But
I mean, part of the discussion yesterday was talking about having to encapsulate the mold in the rafters so that the FEMA guy can come in and make an inspection. And I mean, I just imagine encapsulating, it's kind of like, sounds like fireproofing of a structure. You just.
Well, it's an open ceiling now.
Yeah.
So that what part of the cost estimate was to put a sealed ceiling in there, so you're not going to see up through the.
Yeah, right. But again, you're making corrections to a dilapidated building. I'd much rather see us demolish the building and have the employees working in a brand new building that is probably more functional layout, better construction. At the time, you can correct whatever you got to do for drainage and to make sure that obviously this flooding condition, no matter what, doesn't happen again. And start new.
Well, we could certainly put the French drain in, which is needed, but the mold still exists there today.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't necessarily say we remediate a building and encapsulate a building and send people back into work there. Why don't we just tear it down and start new?
Then we wouldn't need the French drain.
Well, you might need to, I think you might need to do some landscaping or whatever
Well,
you have to do.
they can't go back in there now. They're not, no one's gonna go back in there to work in the current condition of that building, so.
But I'm talking about when the building is down, foundation is out, you might want to do some landscaping or whatever you want to call it, terracing, to make sure the water's, flow properly. French drains one way.
It may not even, if we go down that road, that may not even be the best location for the building.
Okay, too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Cheney.
Absent the availability of that building, where are maintenance operations taking place at this time?
The staff has been relocated to a rental building on the property. The maintenance of some of the machinery has to be done inside in the first portion of the building, which has not been affected by the flooding. So to your answer is it's a very small area that they're working out of on a limited basis right now.
And is that also used for equipment storage? Or do you have other locations?
In the wintertime, it's all of the equipment is stored in the back area where the mold problem is now.
Can you get by?
Well, I mean, our concern was, and in all due respect to Joe, it is mold, and the employees have serious concern there. So from our perspective, it's a health and safety issue.
Right.
Period. So we're looking to expedite it. The building is not, I mean, the pictures are really don't do it justice. I mean, it's a solid structure. It's made out of concrete. If we're gonna put a ceiling in there and do all the work, it'll be fine in perpetuity. It'll be functional. But if you'd like me to explore a new building, I'd be more than happy to do that. But
As well,
our
like you said,
employees are not
maybe
gonna go back in there and work, and where we store the machinery during the winter months. I guess we'd have to figure that out.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Don't send the employees back into a building that has remediated or encapsulated. Mr. Menuda.
Thank you. But again, these reports don't give any information. I mean, it might be unsightly, it might smell, but there's nothing to say that there's a health hazard there. I'd like to see a certified industrial hygienist tell me that there's a health hazard there. And then, which, that would help in going forward. But I think at the end of the day, pursuing down this avenue with $206,000, and even if we just took the first portion, $99,000 to remediate and $110,000 to rebuild, I just don't see the cost benefit analysis on all of this making any sense to a place that's only going to have potential flood again.
Well, I wouldn't even want to send the employees back if it's going to have a chance to have it smell. Ms. Martell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I'm not mistaken, the FEMA funds can also apply to
Alternate
projects to rebuild, relocate into a non-flood zone area.
That's correct.
So we don't lose FEMA. Mr. Green.
As somebody who has asthma issues and so on and so forth, I agree, do not send those employees back in there.
Mr. Green.
Again, Dominic Green, Orange County Emergency Management. The funding is to allow the Parks Department to go through the steps to meet the requirements of FEMA for either reimbursement of remediation and permanent repairs, or FEMA will make a determination if cost benefit or benefit cost analysis, BCA, is that a new structure would be feasible. FEMA would also perhaps fund hazard mitigation to do landscaping, French drains, gutters, downspouts. But before we can get FEMA to look at the entire project, the building needs to be made safe for FEMA to enter. So that's the $90,000.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, to enter a building, can't you put on a Tyvek suit and some scuba equipment to breathe the air so that you can go look?
If there was a FEMA disaster assistance representative who was willing, trained, fit tested, have a physical to meet the requirements of OSHA to enter the building. Currently, FEMA Region 2 does not have an individual who is willing to enter the building. We have offered to take video, stills of the damages. They want to see our application. Those documents that, let's say, Menuda has mentioned, plus a refinement of those documents because of the fact that we don't have a full report from Hayes yet, as they are awaiting a contract or authorization, as Hayes is a subcontractor of DKI for a final report. But we needed, or Parks Department needed the initial funding. And instead of coming back to the legislature for remediation, and then FEMA says, no, we're not gonna do a new structure, we're gonna do a project for repairs. Then it wasn't that Parks had to come back another month to get the remainder $126,000 to finish the project.
Well, I don't
We
think,
also have, we will be submitting a claim to the insurance company as those who are at physical services heard. We will await our insurance carrier to either assign a dollar figure, concur with the scope of work, or give us a denial letter. And all that information will also be submitted to FEMA as they make the determination.
okay, well, I don't think we need to rush things because obviously we've been out of the building for a while. And I mean, personally, I mean, I can't remember his name, but the doctor had about 16 degrees that did the study of the government center before we renovated it. I mean.
Dr. Patel.
Yeah, I mean.
From EMS.
Yeah, so if we had him.
Marco.
Right, so if we had him do a report, an inspection, I would think FEMA would definitely accept that. So that shouldn't be, you know, extremely expensive, I wouldn't think.
But again, the
Agree.
Parks Department does not have the funding to undertake any additional work. So the work that's been done at the Parks Department now, right after Ida struck Orange County, was done by his staff. As the mold became more prevalent and obvious to the naked eye, his employees, and even myself and other people from emergency management who did the preliminary damage assessment for FEMA of county properties, we backed out of the building because we didn't have the PPE.
Right.
Now, myself, if I shaved, I could be fit tested and go inside the building.
Yeah.
Mr. Hines, I think, just volunteered, so.
I don't know what I'm looking at. There also is nowhere for the employees to work on the machinery other than in this building, which, you know, is where they're working, and it's literally through a double door where the majority of the mold is and, you know, has occurred. So
I just think it's gonna be just one study, get the doctor in there. Chairwoman Benelli?
Thank you. I just want to point out that what this request before you is to establish the capital project. I think that's something that you need for FEMA applications so that we show that we've established that it's part of the record. We're putting it into the capital plan. And that's what this request is. We're not spending the money yet, and we haven't determined. And I do think it's a good idea. I don't want you to spend like 1,000 hours on looking at replacing the building and taking it down. But it would be a worthy exercise to take a look at that. And especially if FEMA would cover those costs. So I think that there's a lot of questions out there that you're trying to answer. And this is one of the things that has to be put in place if we're going to follow through with the FEMA application.
if we, yes. And if
At
we,
the end of the day.
Good catch.
100%. If we don't, I mean, if we choose just to, you know, to throw in the proverbial towel, knock down the building and go out to bid and build a new building, and it's, you know, $700,000, then we're not gonna get anything from FEMA.
Right.
We have to follow this process.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Ms. Tortel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of a rhetorical, well, not even rhetorical. Why, when the building was flooded, wasn't the building cleaned and had all the organic materials in the building that were subject to the flooding and to the water removed. That would have eliminated a lot of this.
Well, our guys did that. We removed all the mud.
No, I mean, I'm
so-
talking about you need to move the paneling, the drywall, spray down the studding.
Well, our guys are, they're not qualified to do that. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't we have, an organization, I can't think of any name other than Serve Pro.
Well, that's what
DKI.
DKI.
It should have been in there day one.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying.
Right, they're our contractor, and this is the price they gave us to repair to remediate the mold. That's exactly what we did.
Yeah, I'm just.
We couldn't call up Servpro and ask them to go there because they're not they're not a contractor for the county. We don't have a contract with them. Our guys did, a Herculean event, work by removing all the mud, everything you said that rolled in from the hurricane. So we are where we are.
Okay. So we've had a good discussion. So if the creation of the new capital plan in the amount of $206,000 starts the process, obviously we've had some refinement of ideas of asking for Dr. Padone for a site visit, for a report, as well as thinking about demolition costs and new structure. But if this passing $206,000 to create the new capital plan, obviously, as part of the capital plan, we all know that means he has to come back with specific totals for us to approve as this committee first, or fiscal services first, this second, and then to the floor of the legislature. So, all right, I think we've discussed this enough. So, all right, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menuda.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Public Works. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, number 6, this is request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget for Orange County Sewer District Number 1 to purchase equipment. Funding to come from the Orange County Sewer District Number 1 surplus. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan as project number 60. And upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $134,416, again, from sewer surplus.
So move.
Oh, welcome.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you all in person. This is down at the Harriman Treatment Plant. There's a list of items that I think you guys got with the legislative request. Basically, these are all pumps, soft start or apparatus to soft start a motor or something to start at full speed. Number of replacement items that has worn out. And we always have a backup for these things. Some of them are spare pumps that have been rebuilt over the years and just shouldn't be rebuilt anymore. It should be replaced. We'll have a new spare. But when you look down the list, you'll see, for instance, top mount scum mixer T1 primary is the primary thing. T1, T2, T3. This wastewater treatment plant is basically 3 treatment plants, and there are 3 trains. So when you see T1, T2, T3, that's what that means. Train 1, train 2, train 3. So now I can go through each and every item, but their plant runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And things break, and we have to have spare parts and spare pumps. And
Absolutely.
This will do is replenish that.
All right. Questions from committee members? Again, it's not county taxation, it's the sewer district taxation, but it's still taxation. Hearing no questions, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried? Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
All right, next up, Travis, welcome. Okay, so 7 is request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget in the amount of $800,000 for heavy equipment fleet replacement. Funding is from the State Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, CHIPS. It's in the amount of $700,000 and $100,000 is from county borrowing. This project has been approved under the 2022 capital plan. That's project number 41. State funding, $700,000, county funding, $100,000 to be bonded. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Travis.
So this is to establish our fleet capital replacement program for 2022. We're looking to replace 2 backhoes, one each at our Mount Hope and our Newburgh Maintenance District garages. The backhoes that are there are currently worn out and difficult to find parts at times. Right now we have an estimated price of $125,000 for each of those backhoes. One of them is a 1990 Ford, and the other is a 2001 Firmac. We're also looking to replace our sweeper truck, which is will be replacing a 2005 Freightliner, and our bucket truck, which we utilize for the maintenance of our traffic signals and other high reach uses, and that's a 2004 Chevy. The non-CHIPS or the non-state reimbursement portion of this capital project, which is for $100,000. The primary use of that would be for a Tenco combination body replacement for one of our plow/dump trucks.
Okay. Pretty self-explanatory. Questions from committee members? Ms. Tortel.
How much is this the total amount that we received in CHIPS funding, 700,000, or do you know what portion of that it is?
That's not the total amount. We're only allowed to utilize a small percentage of the CHIPS money that we get for equipment purchase. The total amount that we have for CHIPS, I believe this year, what we call CHIPS also has extreme winter recovery and a paved New York in there. This year, there's another line item that is the pothole. They're calling it POP, I believe. And I think that all told for 2022, we're going to have around 4.4 million.
Okay.
If I have that with me.
And then the equipment that we're replacing, are we going to be offering that off to local municipalities or putting it into an auction, or?
We're going to surplus that.
Yes.
We're going to surplus that. And then the equipment that we're getting, is that part of the intermunicipal share equipment agreement? Like, if the municipality needs a sweeper truck or a bucket truck, is that one of the, because I remember we did that with the county and the local municipalities?
I don't know that it's specifically in that program, but if another municipality reaches out to us, we're able to assist.
Okay, great.
I imagine most of this is just scrap.
No, I'm talking about the new equipment.
Oh, no.
Some of this, they might need parts for something they have. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
When you pull off the duct tape, you see the scrap underneath. All right, any other questions on this? If not, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you very much.
Deb's cleanup.
I'm actually not clean up.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Ed was added at the, yeah, okay.
No, do you think
That's
my
true.
alphabetical order? I'm not the. Okay. So
Welcome.
thank you. So I've given you the general fund budget status report as of March. Basically, you can see that personal services and employee benefits are relatively the same as last year. Our contractual expenses, if you look at encumbrances and actuals compared to last year, they are pretty much the same also. We do seem to have spent a little bit more of it with less encumbrance last year in March. So if you have any questions?
Nothing? Can't think of anything else to say?
No, I was going to give you a little update on the New York State budget.
Yes, that's fine.
That's all right?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, so you know that the New York State budget was approved. And just some of the highlights, they have eliminated the diversion of sales tax for AIM payments and the distressed hospital fund. So that's
That's good news.
that's $2.8 million back in the
Nice.
pocket. As far as preschool tuition rates, they're increasing them 11%. So
basically, we only pay 40.5% of that, but that could be $1 million hit on our side. They are going to continue the Harrell Herring settlement. They're continuing the Medicaid spending cap, but they're altering the calculation so that it will be better on our side. So we'll have a higher spending cap. So that's much better for us. They're increasing the county health base grant. So that's basically what we call Article 6 here. So in the past, we've gotten $650,000 as a base grant. Now it's going to be $750,000. Also, they are allowing some of the fringe benefits to be calculated, so that will help increase our base grant also. Statewide overall is increasing the give grants by 3.5 million, and that comes to law enforcement agencies and can be used for personnel, equipment, overtime. They're also going to continue raise the age money, and that's 250 million statewide. So I do have, it's a 45-page document if anyone would like to look at it.
Did we get that?
This I got from NISAC, but I can certainly send it to you.
Yeah.
Email.
Did you
Yeah,
get it?
okay.
Okay.
And can you give us the itemized list that,
This list?
yeah,
Yes,
can you just give that to
yes.
Carrie Ann so she could send it to us?
I
That'd be
will.
great.
I will.
Talking points. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good, how are you?
Good.
Can I go back to the budget?
Absolutely.
So looking at personal services this year versus last year, looks to me like it's up about 7% if I calculate that off the top of my head. Does that mean we have about 7% more employees this year than last year?
It means that the salaries have gone up.
Or the salaries have
Have
gone
gone
up?
up.
Which my question is, why are the benefits equal to last year? Didn't health insurance go up? Didn't maybe the contribution for the retirement plan, even that went up a little bit?
Actually, it's going down actually as
What
of
about-
April 1st.
Health insurance,
Health insurance did go up a little bit, yes.
because this is showing.
But it could be comparable to the number of vacancies that we have also. If you have $30,000, and we always budget like a vacant position at $30,000 for family benefits, so that takes up a big hit.
But this is actual paid, right?
This is actual paid, yes.
Right, so my point is, it looks to me like there's basically no increase in benefits, which to me is shocking.
Okay, I could take a look at that again, but that's what I'll double check it and I'll give you an update next month, okay?
Good, great, thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions for Deb? All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
See you next month.
Okay.
All right. Last up, Mr. Magrita. Welcome today.
Hello, greetings.
Okay, so this is a request to accept a grant from the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $17,454 for the snow removal equipment building plumbing construction at the Orange County Airport. The revised cost is now $46,454. Upon approval, the funds will increase existing capital project number 566. Federal share 90% is $15,709. State share of 5% is $872, and the county share of 5% is $873. Funds to come from bonding. Second? I'll second. Ed?
Okay, good afternoon. Basically, we had a bid and one of the primary or the first bidder, after the price escalation that went on with all kinds of construction equipment, they had a pretty competitive bid, but they declined to go forward with their bid. So we ended up going with the second bidder, and this is the delta between the two bids that we're looking for plus up. Now, the FAA leaves a 15% cost structure. So without having to amend the grant, they can go up to 15% over the overall cost of the project. And this falls well within that. So the FAA approved the second bidder, and this is also under the 2021 100% funding. Even though we have to go in with the 95-5 scenario, it's highly likely that the county share will be zero when the project is complete and reimbursed.
Okay. Ms. Totel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McGready, could you just please explain The third page of what we received is a project cost breakdown, and it's showing 860,193, yet we're approving 17,454. Is this a stage or?
It's a prime bid, so there's 4 primes here. You have a general contractor, plumbing, HVAC, and the electrical. This is one of the primes. It's actually the smallest prime, and that's the plumbing. So the total cost is what you're seeing there, the 800,000 figure. This is one of the 1/4 pieces, because this is Wick's law, so it had to be bid out by prime contractor. So this is just the smallest portion of the total project.
Yeah, it's on a mark printout. It's really grayed out. Is that 29,000 I see there?
That was the original, that was the first bidder, yes.
Okay, see that. And then, is the total cost of building 90% federally funded in grant in totality?
It is most likely 100% due to the COVID relief packages that airports receive. But the FAA, because it's different buckets of money, wants the standard grant application process of 90%, 5 state, 5 local. The local and the state share are supposed to be paid out from separate buckets of money that they've received from the federal budget to cover those 5% areas. So for the purpose of administration, they want us to continue to use the standard grant process.
And what, have we approved any of the other, obviously this is my first year on Ways and Means, have we approved any of the other parts of the construction costs already for the project?
Oh, the grant was accepted, and that grant is accepted with bids in hand. So the bid process was done prior, and then the acceptance of the grant was brought in front of the legislature last year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions, committee members of the legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn is in order.
So
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone.